Cool. Thank you very much, Eva. Good morning, everyone. How are you? So it's actually fits in really nicely how this has all worked. As Eva sort of mentioned earlier on, yesterday was a lot more data and AI, and today is definitely heading more into the be a human, be personal, and really communicate with people. And that's where I'm taking the conversation today. And I think it's a big thing for everybody to take away is there's so much that goes on in the social media space, and there's so many best practices, there's so many experts saying do this, do that, this is the way you do it. But at the end of the day, if you can combine those two areas as being data and then also being personal, being human, communicating with everybody, you'll really have a really good grounding for your social media strategy. So use the best of those both worlds and things will look right for you. I just want to touch on, before I do start, there's been a few mentions this morning already of how, what sort of content to put out there and whether or not you get views, you get a lot of views, you don't get a lot of views, what's your engagement, things alike. When it comes to your data, there's stuff that you can see and stuff that you can track, and the analytics give us an insane amount of data. But at the same time, there's a lot of intangibles and things that happen that we don't see. And a prime example of this is my wife, who, like many other people, loves Instagram stories, doesn't connect, but watches a lot of Instagram videos of the mummy bloggers, other mums with kids. She's a young mum with kids, so she really connects on and relates to that type of people. And many of these people are also Instagram influencers, right? And they work with a lot of brands and they promote a lot of products. Now, my wife has never ever sent a message or replied to a story. She's maybe once or twice liked a post. So from an engagement point of view, these people and these brands would look at it and go, okay, well, this is the stats. But my wife is always buying products, right? The things that these guys are promoting, if they're being human and they're being relevant, they're saying, look, we've got this new cleaning product, or there's this new type of bamboo nappy which is really eco-friendly and it's fantastic. Like, there's parcels coming to the door all day long, right? But the brand or the influencer isn't going to get that story from their analytics, right? You can track things a long way, but there's always things that are going to happen that you can't always see. So it's always a good thing to remember that, especially when it's coming from a corporate point of view or a brand point of view, big business, brand engagement and ROI, all those sort of things are very important. But do remember, and especially when people start out, like, things are always going to start out at base level. You're not going to get 1 million views straight off the bat. There's always working the way up. Like, Gary Vee's already been mentioned a few times here this morning, but when Gary Vee started out on social media, he got nothing. And he says that he got absolute crickets for like months and months, did hundreds of videos, and now look where he's at today. So that's just one thing. You always need to, data's great, but always remember that there's stuff that goes on, and we know it, people have all bought stuff online. So always keep that in mind whenever you're looking to do social media for your business, that there's always stuff that doesn't come across in your analytics. Let's get straight into it. So the future of social media, as I mentioned already, I firmly believe that personalisation and communication is a big part of it, and there's definitely a theme going on with everybody that's already spoken today and spoken across this conference. Cherie's mentioned it, Trevor's mentioned it. It's about humanising our brand, right? It's about being human, being relatable, and I think where we've got to in the social media industry is we've got to a point where business and brands know that they should probably have a go, they should probably try. Lots of other people having success, maybe we should too have a go. But instead of doing it in a really personal way and using the platform as social media, there's a lot more traditional media, marketing, advertising trends going on, especially with content, things being very scripted, as it's been mentioned. And of course, it just doesn't lend itself as well to the platform, right? So we really want to make sure that when we are using social media, when we're creating content, that we're not essentially creating TV commercials again and putting them up on our social media, because it just doesn't really work. Social media strategy needs to be one-to-one. So we all know that social media can, we can almost connect with anybody around the world, depending on the platform. and it's been fantastic for us to reach the masses, right? We can connect with people in London, we can connect with people anywhere around the world, but now that the platforms have gotten so popular, there's over 2 billion people on Facebook, where there's so much more noise now, right? Anybody here have a Facebook page and organic reach is basically dead? A few people. So that is because there's so much happening now on the platform that your content is fighting with billions of other people's content, okay? So there's a few things that we need to do in order to make sure that what we put out into the world gets seen by as many people as possible. If we're trying to reach everybody as well, you won't be relevant to anyone. And I firmly believe this. Trevor mentioned before about the brands that he's working with getting 900 views on a video or whatever it is. Like, realistically, if we look at how many people are in this room today, and then we think about 900 people, it's a lot of people. And if they're engaged and they're watching all the way through a 50-minute video, those people are very, very engaged in what you have to say. So even though the numbers might be in the millions, if you've got 100 people who are watching a 50-minute video all the way through, you've got some pretty engaged people. Personalisation, I firmly believe, is vital in attracting the attention of your audience. So again, when we come back to creating content, if we can create more raw content, if we can create more live streams, live streaming is very, very hard, but people that do it well get really, really good results. And that's because the platforms over-index it, right? So Facebook wants to take on big platforms like YouTube and be really heavy in video. Like, they want to earn the rights to NRL games in the US and broadcast a lot of video. So anybody who has the courage to get their phone out, jump on and do a live stream, they're going to push that out to more people because they want you to be using those features. So if you want to get some quick wins, do live streaming. Problem is, it can be really hard and it can be really daunting for some people. So it's if something's really hard, often it's going to give you some good benefits. So I highly suggest doing more live video if you can. And the other thing with social media is the amazing fact that what it can do, and for any social media agencies in the room where you know this, when it comes to TV advertising, you can spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on one TV advert, and you get that one piece of content, you get that one ad, and that has to be broadcast out to however many thousands or millions of people. With social media content, you can create that on a budget, you can create that with much less spending than what you would for a TV advert, and you can create multiple variations of it. And what that allows you to do is connect more with the target audiences that you're trying to reach. So instead of creating one blanket ad, we can create a piece of content that will resonate with a 25-year-old male. We can create another piece of content that will resonate with a 30-year-old female, right? So you see what I'm saying? We get lots of different variations with our content. And that way, that makes it even more personalised. When we're talking about business, consumers' expectations are rising to new heights. So it's a little bit funny because we're talking about AI, we're talking about chatbots and how fast technology's improving and what it can do nowadays. And it's often difficult for us as marketers to keep up with everything that's going on. But as consumers, we can adapt fairly quickly, and when we get an expectation of something, we like that to continue to improve, we like the experience to be fantastic. So it's saying here, Salesforce says that 81% of consumers expect brands to get to know them. And by get to know them, they mean personalising the experience that they have with that brand. So we'll dive into a few ways on how we can do that. One of those ways, obviously, is using the data that's available. So I'm sure everybody in this room is aware of how much, everybody's talking about the insane amounts of data that Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms have on us, and it really is ridiculous. We're talking about 400,000 plus data points for each user on Instagram or on Facebook. So they're basically tracking everything, they're listening to our conversations, so they know us almost better than we know ourselves. That can be pretty scary to some people, but when it comes to marketing, if it's used in the right way, we can really personalise our content and then put it in front of the right people to get the best results. So using things like the Facebook pixel, LinkedIn insight tags, and all your tracking codes on websites, making sure all those systems are in place. Can I see by show of hands in the room who is currently running their own Facebook or Instagram ads, like actually creating the campaigns and all that sort of stuff themselves? Awesome, fantastic. Is anybody using Messenger or Chatbots at the moment in their business? A couple as well. Awesome, fantastic. So you guys will know things like dynamic advertising with your Facebook ads. So we can set up a blank standard Facebook ad, create a campaign, an ad set, create our ad that goes out to our target audience, and that just stays whatever content, whatever creative we've used in that ad, that's what it is. With dynamic advertising, that's the type of ad that chases you around the internet, that pair of shoes that you just looked at, or whatever it might be. That personalisation is much more likely to get you to come back and make a purchase, right? Because it's exactly what you were just looking at. It's something that you were interested in already. It's not another piece of content from the brand or the business. So a little bit more work involved when it comes with dynamic advertising, but again, if we go to that extra step, we'll be able to generally reap better results. The data will also help us create hyper-personalised, multivariate content. So words aside, basically with all the data that we can get from the major platforms, we can break that down and we can see what age demographics are watching our videos the longest, who's clicking on what sort of subject matters are the most popular for the audiences that we're targeting. So the data is such an important part of our social media, especially when ROI and budgets and everything is very, very important. Using that data to make sure that we're on track and get the best results moving forward is something that is very important. And then of course we have artificial intelligence and machine learning and all these things which are coming very much to the forefront of what we're doing. And I'm not an expert in artificial intelligence, but I know that moving forward, as a social media marketer, as a marketer in general, that I need to do lots and lots of research, keep up with the latest trends, find out what's happening in this space, because these are the types of things that will be the future of social media, the future of marketing in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years and beyond. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Is anybody here working on making their social media more personalised? And do you have any examples of what you're doing? Sure. Thanks, Steve.
So I work in the financial services and we have 1.2 million members. I'm at a superannuation company. And what we can do is look at people at different life stages. So superannuation, to anyone over 30 years and younger, probably no one really cares about it because that's future use problem. But what we're trying to do is make sure that everyone's life stage, that we're talking to them at every life stage. So for example, we're talking to people 30 and younger now saying, now is the time when you have to start adding more to your super because when you're 40, you've only got another 15 years to go until you retire. We're talking to people when they're 50 to 55 saying, you're going to retire soon, add an extra $25,000 per year to your super. So we're looking at the different age groups and we're targeting them via Facebook and Instagram. And essentially just saying, this is what you need to be doing right now to help future you.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Also, with social media, so often we want that short-term result, we want that quick win, but again, the platform lends itself to be able to reach the people that we want to reach, and instead of trying to extract that sale and trying to get a result immediately off the bat, as you just mentioned, you're talking about connecting with people who it's going to be a problem for them in the future. You're not going to make millions and millions of dollars out of these people straight away. But over time, you're going to be able to get them to know, like, and trust you if you're putting out high value, entertaining content, or providing them with something that is of interest or personalised. So it's a great example of using social media and thinking more long-term about it rather than trying to drive that immediate result. Because again, like, especially as you said, like your customer base, the people that you need to try and reach now so that they're set up in the future, they're going to thank you in 20 years' time when they do have enough super in their account. But of course, that's a long-term approach. So if a business or a brand is able to put that into perspective and say, yep, we can use this platform now to educate these people, they're going to be very, very thankful customers or clients in the future. That's an awesome way to use it. Anybody else?
Members, not customers.
Members, of course.
I've got an example there.
Okay.
I want to share today that I've been roaming with my phone.
Yes.
And I really want to point out that that's really easy to do.
Sure.
So in the last session, the pimple, the 13-year-old pimple version, I mean, that's so gutsy. So gutsy to be able to put out a picture of a 13-year-old you with a pimple in a self-fridge. You know? That's so gutsy. And it's so anti what a lot of us want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm trying an experiment. Please come and get me if you want to be in one of these videos. They're on Twitter. I'm just doing my phone. They're 1 minute.
You've sold me. We're on.
And I really want to say that that's it. That's what it is.
That's right.
I'm here at this event right now.
Yep.
I don't get out very much. I work for myself. I work from home, an hour from the city, and I'm with more people that I've seen in 3 months. So I'm like a pig in shit, right?
And for anybody who is a little bit tentative about being in front of video, as mentioned before, Sho mentioned it, the more that you can do it, and it's like anything, it's like a skill, like just practicing. Me standing up on stage here today, the more you can do it, the more you desensitize yourself, the more you get used to it, the more you build up that skill, and it's exactly the same with video. So if anybody is struggling, as Sho said, started a Facebook group, wasn't talking to anybody, was just practicing it. Same with live video, like live streams. Don't push the live button, have a go, do 4 or 5, just record them to your phone, don't even record at all, just have the phone there, and just practice till you're at the point where you feel comfortable enough to go live. Awesome. Thank you.
Questions?
Awesome. All right, so different ways that we can personalise our marketing, and we're going to jump straight into some ways that we can look at it from a Facebook advertising point of view. So really, a strategy that we often use is when you're creating content, a great testing ground for what's going to work in your Facebook advertising is your organic social media content, right? So you can publish that content onto any platform that you like, see how it goes, test it against other pieces of content, find out what works the best, and then amplify that piece of content using a platform like Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, or any other type of ad platform. So test it out first, find out what people love, and then put some money behind it to really maximize that ROI. Hyper-personalized ads for different audiences that you want to reach. So one thing that we find happens with Facebook advertising is that we don't create enough content. We don't create enough different types of ads to test. There's a lot of different things involved, and we're not going to go into it all today, but from an algorithm point of view, the algorithm will do its job to try and find the piece of content that's going to resonate with a particular type of person. But also, if we can create more personalised content that's going to resonate more with people, that's just a double whammy approach. Retargeting campaigns is another massive thing when it comes to Facebook advertising, and it doesn't happen as much as it should either. Retargeting, again, is when we show people another video, another image, the product that they just looked at, and bring them back, re-engage them with the brand. Because again, with social media, the end goal is to help people to know, like, and trust either us, or our personal brand, or our business, and that's what social media can do, because it allows us to do it in a cost-effective manner. And retargeting campaigns sometimes get forgotten. We launch a campaign, we run our Facebook ads, it does its thing, we get our results, but at the end of the day, there's more steps that you can take to create an experience and to help people come back to your website, your Facebook page, your social media platform, and take the action that you want them to take. Segmentation and building custom audiences also is another big thing when it comes to your Facebook ads. So if we look at a marketing funnel, we've got our top of funnel, we've got our middle of the funnel, we've got the bottom of the funnel. Facebook ads, very similar to the superannuation membership situation here. There's so many people at the top of the funnel that are in a stage where they are not thinking about superannuation right now. But it is a problem for them, they're just not aware of it. So building audiences of people and putting them into our different buckets for our Facebook ads, depending on the level of awareness that they're at, the age that they're at, creating those audiences so that when we're running a Facebook ads, we're running an ad to someone in the right audience. So we're not showing somebody an ad for a superannuation company that is 20 years old and they're talking about retiring, because it's just not relevant. So we need to make sure that we are creating a campaign, our ad sets, and then multiple different ads to test against all the multiple different audiences and demographics that we want to be targeting. So it takes more work, but again, at the end of the day, you're often going to get better results because one, you've got more personalised content, and two, you're going to have more data to see what's working and what's not. And Messenger ads is another big thing. Clicking to Messenger ads. Has anybody had an experience with Messenger where they've clicked on an ad and it's gone through to Messenger and you've had a conversation with either a person or a brand? Has anybody done that? A few people? Awesome. Was it a good experience or was it a bad experience? In between. So a lot of the time, and this is because this is sort of in early days, like business and brands are still trying to get the hang of it, learn how to do it, and it's going to get much, much better. One, because people are going to get better at building chatbots and things like that, and two, the technology is going to keep advancing, AI is going to keep advancing, and make it a much better experience for everyone. But again, it's about trying to get people to the place where you can have a conversation with them. And if you're a corporation, if you're a large business, if you're a large brand, the chatbot is the thing that can help you scale those conversations. You may not outsource every single conversation that you have to a chatbot. You may come into the conversation at some point, but again, it's going to allow you to scale that conversation. An example of personalised creative that we have done for a client in the past. This particular client obviously is an F45 gym, and basically what we did is we broke down the different audiences that we wanted to target, being male, female, and the different age brackets. We actually broke it down to 4 different audiences. One was younger female demo or female demo, and the same with the male, younger and older. And we made sure that the types of ads that we were running to the audiences that we wanted to target, that the creative and the wording was personalised, right? We didn't want to be showing the 30 to 50-year-old male bench press video to the 18-year-old female audience, because that's just not going to work. That's definitely going to turn them off going to an F45 gym. So we made sure that we also talked about in the copy things like netball and hockey and improving your fitness for those sort of things. And then with the older male demographic, we talked about busy work schedule, kids, trying to stay fit, getting rid of the dad bod, all that sort of thing. So making sure, and again, like this took more time and effort. It wasn't just one campaign with one ad, put it out there and hope heaps of people come into F45. It was to make sure that when we were talking to that person, that it was as relevant as possible to that particular audience. With Facebook retargeting, again, as I mentioned before, we've got our funnel, we've got the different levels, we've got awareness, consideration, and decision. And a thing that we do a lot inside the agency is make sure that we're creating different audiences for where people are at in their buyer's journey, right? So we create audiences that have people in the awareness stage, in the consideration stage, and in the decision stage. And you show different types of content to them along the journey, right? It's not the same ad running to all your different audiences. It's multi-variant, lots of different pieces, and it's up to you. It depends on the budget that you have, it depends on the time that you have, but the more that you can break your content down, the more ads that you can run to people, the more organic content that you can put out and test, the better that your results will be when you come to the paid version. So for anybody who is struggling maybe to get CEO or C-suite into social media, get them more involved, you can start this process before you go spending money on Facebook, and you don't have to spend big dollars. An example, Facebook video ads. You can get video views for less than half a cent. Like, it's very, very cost effective, And if you go about it the right way, you can get some very quick results for a small amount of money. And it works across multiple industries. And as we can see there, I've just got some examples of the different stages of the funnel. You need to find out what's relevant to the individual at the top, test your different types of creative. Middle of the funnel, we're starting to segment different audiences to remain relevant, and then decision stage or purchasing stage, we can then start retargeting customers with upsells and repeat purchases. Custom audiences, so for anybody who is familiar with the business manager, the back end, the ad account inside of Facebook, I'm sure you'll have seen this before, and this is where you can create all your different custom audiences inside the back end of Facebook. You can use engagement data, so how many people have watched a video and the length that they've watched that video. You can create audiences based on your website activity, on app activity, or upload things like email lists, and also people who have engaged with maybe event pages or lead pages as well. There's a whole range of different custom audiences that you can create, and this gives you an idea on how you can make your advertising so much more personalised, because you can take a warm list, you can take your email database, upload that into Facebook, and then only show content to that audience. It doesn't have to go out to everybody and anybody. And again, with video, if you're trying to work out what's resonating best with an audience, you put that video out. You can do it organic to start with, find out what works, or you can amplify it with your paid Facebook ads and look at how long people watch that video for, right? Where they drop off, what percentage of the video is watched, and then depending on your strategy, depending on what you're trying to do, create more of that type of content and really push forward in that direction. So there's lots of ways that Facebook help you to get the results that you're trying to get. And at the end of the day, if we work with the platforms to provide the best experience that we can, and again, that comes back to personalisation, then the platforms and the algorithm will reward us. Is anybody running their own Facebook ads, and are you trying to personalise it in some way at all? Yeah. Any examples?
Me.
If you like.
Yeah, so you mentioned before about dynamic ads. So we work,
so for our dynamic ads, we would usually run 5 different pieces of copy for the main copy, and then like 5 different CTAs in the headline with 5 different visuals if we can. But personalising it by the videos themselves are always for a particular objective. So let's go for brand awareness generally, which is what we're usually going for. But because we have so many different members, we have to create so many different ads. And if you're not doing the dynamic ads, then we're literally just spending money to yell the same message at the same people.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, there's so many different, like, it changes from industry, it changes from business. Like, you really do have to try and find out what is going to work best for you. And again, like, if you do have such a wide audience base, it may not be possible to create 10 videos for 10 different age demographics or 10 different interest areas. So it's about finding out what you can. And dynamic advertising is a great example. So instead of having to go out and create all this different content, you can still personalise it by making and showing people advertising of something they're already interested in. So there's shortcuts and things you can do with that. So it's a good tip. Anybody else? Anybody else having any issues with their Facebook advertising? Working or not working? One thing that Cherie touched on before too is the fact that people, say on a platform like Instagram, people have thousands and thousands of followers, multiple thousands of followers, and a much smaller presence on a Facebook platform. What you might find is that Facebook can often outperform Instagram. We find that with a lot of our clients in the agency. Facebook is where people will make the purchases, right? They'll make ticket purchases to events, they'll sign up lead forms and all that sort of thing. Even though there's a bigger following, there's more people on Instagram. So again, it's about, as a marketer, testing what you're doing, see what's going to convert better. Because at the end of the day, what we think might happen is not generally always the case. So just because we have there's a small number of people doesn't necessarily mean that the results are going to relate to that. Communicating with your audience. So the last section here that I wanted to talk about relates to messaging, it relates to chatbots, and that's sort of the next step from your Facebook ads in some point, taking people from that brand awareness point of view, from the middle of the funnel, and bringing them into a place where you can have a conversation with them. Messaging apps have long since surpassed usage rates over the top social media platforms. So we're talking Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and they've got Twitter on here as well. So like, we love to message, we love to talk, we're human, we all love to talk, and messaging, especially with platforms like WhatsApp, Messenger, they've even got Viber here in this case, they're being used at much higher rates than the big social media platforms. So taking people from that social media platform to then build the relationship with them on a messaging platform is often a good next step, depending on the type of industry or business you're in. Not all marketing has to be done in the newsfeed. So again, like oftentimes as marketers, we can be sitting there, we can be in the market, another person at the end of what we're creating, right? It's a human at the other end, and we can kind of get real tunnel vision, right? It's like we have to drive a lot of Facebook ads through the newsfeed and we have to get results here, but there's lots of things that are happening, there's lots of arterial platforms that we can use, like Messenger, like building a chatbot, that can help to assist in our marketing. And again, as I mentioned, chatbots can help you scale those personalisation efforts. So a lot of people, the experience that you might have had with a chatbot to date is where it pops up, it's trying to pretend to be a human, you know it's not a human. You may have to type in a question and it says, I can't help you right now, I'll come back to you, and you're like, this is rubbish. Or you might have had the experience on Messenger or the chatbot where you can simply push buttons, make your selection, and it kind of steps you through the process, and it can be really smooth and efficient. So there's right ways to go about it, there's wrong ways to go about it, but you really want to try and focus on creating the best experience, and a more connected audience is generally going to mean you have more conversions, build more relationships, and have more success. So with Facebook Messenger, obviously being a messaging platform, you can use it to create those deeper relationships. It depends on, your strategy, it depends on what you're trying to achieve with your marketing, whether you want to have one-on-one conversations with people. The chatbot Messenger can be used to add that human touch if you need it there. And we know that 53% of customers are more likely to shop with a business that they can message. So again, it's about showing people behind the scenes, as people have mentioned already today. It's about letting people see the brand, letting them inside, who are they dealing with, who are they buying from, they want to deal with the person, they want to ask questions, they want to get feedback in real time, and it just makes sense that statistic is going to keep climbing, because at the end of the day, if you've got options, if something is there to remove the friction from your purchasing decision, then generally that's going to be a preference for you compared to a business or a brand with a Facebook or Instagram page where you can't talk to them in real time, there's no email address, there's no phone number. So making yourself and your brand more accessible is going to be more relatable on a human level. Some examples of ways that we can use Messenger, obviously website live chat. So you may have seen this before. You can add the little piece of code from Messenger onto your website, and you've basically got a free website live chat, which links straight back into your Facebook page Messenger, and you can respond to people in real time from there. So that's a great way to use that platform. The Facebook page button, you can change it to send a message, click to Messenger ads, as I mentioned before, so we can create Facebook ads. You can show that creative to the target audience you're trying to reach. They can click through into Messenger and you can have a conversation with them there. And Messenger broadcast as well, which platforms like ManyChat, who's heard of ManyChat before when it comes to chatbots? Awesome, perfect. Is anybody using ManyChat right now? A couple of people, perfect. Is it easy to use? Is it easy to set up, or do you find it a little bit difficult still? A little bit difficult. To like create long sequences, or just overall you find it a little bit difficult?
I try to set it up for a competition.
Okay.
So that
Yep.
we're basically entering the competition
Yep.
by the.
Okay.
And yeah,
And what was the sort of flow? So you had the competition, they jumped into Messenger, and what was the flow that you created?
Questions,
Yep.
buttons, and they had to, put in their email address.
Yep.
And they had to, consent to certain things. So yes, and
Sure.
no, and then, and then it was just pushing it into.
Okay. Okay.
So it wasn't too hard.
Yeah.
But I think because I hadn't used the platform before.
Yeah. Of course, it's like anything. It's like any type of skill or anything that you try. After you do it a few times, you get the hang of it, you learn the little nuances, and it can get better over time, trust me. 77% of customers say chatbots will transform their expectations of companies over the next 5 years. Who knows where this is all going to be at in the next 5 years? Like, realistically, I can stand up here and talk till the cows come home, but we don't really know how advanced things are going to be, where consumer adoption is going to be in 5 years. So it's just about trying to get the time and the budget to jump into what's working now as much as possible and try and keep up with the trends. I know it can be hard for me to keep up with everything that's going on. There's some tried and true things. The tried and true is the fact that we're humans, we love to communicate, we love to be entertained, we love to be provided value. The things that keep changing are the platforms. So if we can keep adopting and keeping up with what's working now, what we think is going to work in the future, and we know that communication and chatbots are going to be there in the future. We can see that from that slide before. Messaging apps have overtaken social media platforms, and that's not going to change. It's going to continue to grow. Especially when Mark Zuckerberg comes out and says that platforms like Facebook are going private. They're really pushing groups. They want that conversation, they want that communication, and that's not going to change. Chatbots can help in a lot of different ways. It's not just about talking to a customer or a potential customer. You can set up a little menu with platforms like ManyChat, and that allows people to select buttons to go off to your website or your YouTube channel, or download this ebook. So there's lots of different ways that you can use Messenger. It can help you deliver content. So you might have seen people offering things like ebooks or white papers or that sort of thing in the news feed. It says click here, download now, it comes through, pops up in Messenger, hey presto, it's there. So there's lots of different ways. And again, it's another way to make it a little bit more personalised. We're all different, but being sent to Messenger and having chatbot or human say, thanks for coming through, here's the ebook that you really wanted, a little bit more of a personal touch than going off to a landing page, typing in your email and your name, hitting enter, if you're going to go to all that effort in the first place. Chatbots can be used as a great customer support tool. So again, depends on the business, depends on the industry, but people want, if they've got a problem or if they're trying to find something, we all know, we want to try and have that resolved as soon as possible. So instead of phone calls, people will love to jump in and try and have it answered online in real time. Email is very clunky, so again, chatbot is a great use case for that. And you can just have one-on-one conversations with your audience. Anybody using chatbots? Having any issues with them? Any success? Would love to hear your thoughts.
Can you give us an example of one of your clients that you worked with?
Yeah, so with an event company that we work for, we're setting up a funnel which puts the chatbot. So the thing that we've got, we're running ads for events that are selling tickets, right? But what we want to do is sort of nurture the audiences that we're working with. It's a slightly controversial type of, not controversial, but sensitive type of an event that's being run. So we want to set up a chatbot and a nurture sequence that people can ask questions. They're doing that in the comments already, but sometimes you don't want to put a public-facing comment out there. So the chatbot can link you straight off to Messenger. You can have that conversation. They can ask the questions that they want. And once people are in a chatbot, like ManyChat, you can set up, they become a subscriber. So it's almost like an email list. And if they've contacted you, you can then contact them later. So there's a great use case there where if people are not too sure about purchasing that event ticket, we're going to be able to follow up with them. We've got their details, they're inside of that chatbot, and we'll be able to contact them later and make that purchasing decision and work them down the funnel. So that's a use case there. Yes?
More of a comment, but I think ABC News does the Messenger bot really well. So I think setting up a Messenger bot is the next step at where I work, the other in New South Wales.
Perfect.
So really keen to just set up a general customer service style one to start with. So your opening hours, what's on, sign up to hear when tickets go on sale, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
So I subscribe to ABC News one, it's been really good to get the hang of how they set it up, and it has a really good tone of voice as well, so it's not too formal and they do some fun stuff.
You can have a bit of fun with it, yeah.
Yeah, and they're quite a big organisation too, so it's a good example if you're keen to explore that.
Fantastic. Let's check it out. Thank you. Awesome. Yes.
So I work at NAB, and they have a chatbot we've had for a few years, and that's quite comprehensive. So a little bit more than just posting tickets. It's pretty much any sort of servicing activity that someone will talk to us on social accounts. We've collected all of that data and put it into a bot.
Yep.
Over, I think, 10,000 different questions in there, and allows you to compare cards and do all those sort of things. So we find that works quite well for us. And it allows you to ask these sort of questions, but when it gets to the point if it doesn't give you the answer, then it transitions you to an actual question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And do you get feedback from users who have used that bot? Is it generally good feedback? Like even if they do get to the point where the bot can't help them and then they have to go to customer service, like they still appreciate the fact that the bot's there, yeah?
Yeah, and so then they'll tell some of that feedback to, if they have to go to a banker, they'll give that feedback to the banker.
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
But then we get a lot of people just wanting to know, like, where's the closest ATM? Or like, where's my branch? How can I contact you? They're too lazy to actually jump on the website. So it's great for those like really simple questions. But for us, it was a journey. So initially, the bot was it's a number of years. So the initial start of the bot was quite ignorant. So over time, we gathered all the feedback that customers would tell us and added extra, questions or wording, and that way the bot learns a little bit better, faster.
Perfect. And good example there, obviously, NAB, their bot is quite a lot more sophisticated than what a bot would be in ManyChat, or the example I gave where we're purchasing tickets. And that, again, I assume is where a lot of like AI, machine learning, all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure the bot that NAB is using is constantly learning it. It's got the technology there to pick up on keywords and phrases and terms and customer intent, and it's basically teaching itself, right? And it gets to a point where it may not be able to help, but it's pretty comprehensive, and that's just going to continue to scale. Aoife?
I just love to ask with the now bot, what you do on is Google. We've done most of the Canada.
Yeah. Gotcha. Right, okay, so is that your dialogue flow that you put in for your natural language? Yeah. And that's really, it's really interesting that a large scale enterprise is using dialogue flow for Google, because, Google purchased dialogue flow, which enables a bot to be more intelligent, to have free flow language, but that's actually any small to medium business can just register an account and plug that into their bot. It's not exclusive to be an enterprise. So it's just to note that the technologies that are starting or have evolved in the last 24 months are now really affordable, and you don't have to, have a Kanban board with a large budget and an innovation team. You can actually, once you know they're available, you can plug them in really easily. And it's all about strategy with bots. So it's interesting because obviously with a large bank, once you're going to have a digital transformation, you're going to have, your whole legacy system needs to be upgraded. So largely these guys do need to have custom built to plug into their old systems, as we know that's the challenge. But you know, the advantage for small to medium businesses is that they don't have those large legacy systems. It's like the open APIs can plug into multiple CRMs, and you know, in the big scheme of the encoding has gone out the window. So it's just knowing how to. It's very accessible. Once you're exposed to it, it's not difficult.
Awesome, thanks Eva. Right guys, so simply to wrap up from me, regardless of whether you are a sole trader, one-person business owner, or you're a large corporation, social media is heading in that direction of being more personal. We want to be more relevant to the people that we're talking to, and at the end of the day, it's just about trying to be more human. We've seen examples of CEOs, we've seen examples of, you know, the New Zealand Prime Minister, right? There's ways to go about it, there's ways that you can do it if you want to, and there's a lot of success to be had out there. And for a lot of industries, there's a big digital land grab if you take action quickly and jump in before everybody else. So thank you all for your time.